Hey, welcome to the Sales Performance Insights podcast. Today, I want to talk about why information is not enough and meeting the new expectations of today's buyers. Look, the fact of the matter is, buyers don't need your information. They can get all that online and they can get it instantly and they can get it for free. What they do need and what they're desperate for is clarity. They want someone to help them make sense of all the noise, to give them some context, and to guide them confidently towards a solution to their problem. That's the gap that I think a lot of sellers these days just flat out miss. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how customer expectations have evolved and why the sales process is no longer a straight line. It's not linear. And how you can use the right behaviors, attitudes, and techniques to stay relevant in this new reality. So, this new buyer reality, what's that all about? Buyers do 60 to 70% of the research before they ever talk to a salesperson. Don't blame me. That's Gartner's information. Buyers are more informed, but even with all the information, they're less confident. There's just flat out too many choices. There's too much data. Their journey is messy. They've got multiple stakeholders. They've got shifting priorities and then endless comparisons. So the modern buyer isn't looking for more information. They're looking for someone to help them connect the dots. My bet is that the sales folks that you've got at the top, they get this. Look, maybe they just got lucky. Maybe their instincts have put them onto the truth, or maybe you're just an amazing leader and you've shined the light on this problem for them. I guess it's probably that, right? Look, that's the buyer's reality. Let's talk about the seller's dilemma. Can we throw out the old playbook? It's pitching features, it's sharing data, and then it's pushing for the close. Look, the buyers already know what you're going to tell them. That makes you irrelevant. If you read from that old playbook, it makes you irrelevant. The new reality is sellers who don't evolve get replaced. They get replaced by competitors. They get replaced by wise internal champions. They get replaced by indecision. If you're showing up as just another source of information, you're already out of the game. Look, go listen to the calls. Evaluate the conversations. There's a pretty good chance that your folks rush into pitching. When they hear a buying signal, we call it getting happy ears. Instead of asking great questions and guiding the buyer to a relevant solution, they move straight into presentation and closing. So we have the buyer's reality and the seller's dilemma. Let's bridge that gap. Let's bridge it with some good, solid behaviors, attitudes, and techniques. I want to break down Sandler's BATs as a framework to a way forward. Think about behaviors. A key behavior here in this situation is consistent pre-call planning, and it's beyond just taking a glance at their LinkedIn profile. Super deep, way deeper than that. It's also about post-call debriefs and asking yourself, did I bring clarity or did I just repeat what Google says? This is about going deeper. It's about ongoing learning. It's about understanding the industry. It's about understanding the trends. It's about understanding your competitors. Now, what about attitudes? These are your seller's beliefs, their thoughts, their mindset. Is it the mindset of an advisor or is it the mindset of a persuader? Do they have confidence in your value, which really is in the interpretation, not in the information? Do they have a willingness to ask uncomfortable questions? I see sellers nowadays that really fall into two categories. Either they don't know what questions to ask or they're afraid to ask the tough questions. Either way, you lose. Now let's talk about techniques to round out that the behavior, attitude, technique triangle. Techniques like maybe upfront contracts, including statements like, hey, look, Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospect, let's invest some time focusing on what's missing here, not what you already read. It's about smarter questions. Things like, hey, what's one thing that you wish you knew but couldn't find online? It's ultimately about a pain funnel, and it's about connecting those surface issues to the personal impact. When you can do that, you're ahead of the game, and your competitors are not doing that. I can almost promise you that. It's about insight framing. Maybe that might sound like, hey, here's a blind spot that we're seeing in the industry right now. So how are you going to move from a vendor to a guide? Well, what do vendors do? They provide data. What do guides do? They provide perspective. Think about your own personal buying experience. Which one would you prefer? Data or perspective? Buyers will always choose the guide that they trust over a vendor that they're going to forget by tomorrow. So a vendor probably says things like, hey, here's what our product does. And a guide says, hey, since you've probably seen the specs, let's talk about what buyers at this stage of the game often get stuck on. Look, the difference between a vendor and a guide is their ability to ask the right questions and shine the light on what the buyers can't see. I had a great conversation several years back with a prospect. I stayed in my plan. I stayed in my zone. I followed my pre-call plan. I asked great questions. I connected the dots for them, and I guided them through the unknown. We never even talked about my actual training service, and they became my best client, the best client I ever had. So my encouragement is to get off the information bandwagon. Buyers need insight. Who's going to give it to them, you or your competitor? So let's recap this as we begin to land the plane here. Buyers have the data. What they need is the clarity. The sales process is not linear anymore, but ultimately that's not a problem. It's an opportunity. The right behaviors, attitudes, and techniques align to position you as a guide. On your next sales call, ask yourself this: am I giving the buyer clarity, or am I just adding noise? Hey, let's wrap it up here. If this resonated with you, share this episode with a colleague or a sales leader that you know. And if you want more tools to help your team sell in today's complex world, let's connect. Let's have a conversation. See if I practice what I preach. Hey, and don't forget, nobody ever got fired for improving sales performance. We'll see you next time.